One of the stars of the documentary is here with us, Mr. Lander. And Dr. Ford is a former city councilman with us. So they're going to take the seats of honor here, and we're going to have them speak. And I hope that some of you have some questions for them as well. We're going to wait about a minute. There's a bathroom through those doors. If you want to quickly run and use the restroom, feel free. And we'll get them situated here, and then we'll continue with the program. We have these for you to sign because they're release forms for the audio recording. Okay. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. Oh, and while we're taking this little quick break, Mona's here. Hi, Mona. It's my friend Mona. Some of the organizations that you heard about in the documentary, like Impact and the NAACP, we have some of the original documents out there in these center cases here. So be sure to take a look at the exhibit when you have a chance, because it's just amazing what we have here in Special Collections. I was able to pull together material from the Tucson Council on Civic Unity's records, the papers of Stuart Udall and Morris Udall, the Arizona Civil Liberties Union, and other materials. So I hope you do take a look. I'm going to turn it over now to our distinguished guests. Dr. Charles Ford was a city councilman for many, many years here in Tucson, and Mr. Cressworth Lander was born and raised here in Tucson in the Dunbar Spring neighborhood and is currently president of the Dunbar Coalition. There are many other things I could say about these two gentlemen, but in the interest of time, I'll let them share a little bit about their backgrounds with you rather than have me do it. So I'm gonna just do this. Why don't you take it away? All right.
Take it forward.
Well, good evening. This has been quite an evening, and it's just wonderful to see the information that was presented today, and also the struggle that African Americans have had in this community for a very long time. And a few things I'd like to just share with you. Matter of fact, you've seen a lot in terms of the presentation that we've seen tonight. I was elected to the Tucson City Council, and primarily as a result of a lot of the information you've seen tonight, because a lot of folks worked to ensure that that happened. And I'm very grateful and very appreciative to all the folks who worked to ensure that I got a seat on the Tucson City Council. And of course, it was not an easy struggle, but it was much easier as a result of the folks who chipped in to make it happen. And of course, as vice mayor of the city, also during those years that I was a city council member, and also as a school principal at the same time also, so it was quite a struggle taking care of them, and my kids were quite young at the time also, and making sure that they were on the right path. And also, as I've gotten a little older, I have to put these glasses on so I can see where I'm going. And of course, I feel also a need to, it's not a popular thing to me to have been the only African American elected to the city council and vice mayor. So there is definitely a need now, and that's been a need for a number of years, to ensure that our council, our elected officials in Tucson, our elected officials at the county level and the state level and the city level, that there's a need for more minorities to be elected to these positions. Because actually we bring a different perspective in terms we understand the needs and we understand the difficulty that we've gone through as a result of getting there. So it has always been my desire to see more African Americans on the city council and on the elected positions in the county and the state. Also, in addition to being elected official, there's also a need for equal employment must be available to all of our citizens. We still have a significant number of positions that are not available to minorities and not available to African Americans also. So we need to make a difference there. We need to change some things there also. And it will be a struggle, will not be easy. For instance, though, as I look at the University of Arizona, I can recall a few years ago when I was still working on my master's, there was a significant number of African Americans in significant positions at the time, including my wife Doris, who was assistant vice president at the university at the time. Many of these positions have gone away. So we have to bring back, we have to work hard to ensure that we have a very integrated situation here too. And as you know, when I was on the council, I pushed very, very hard for that type of opportunities for all of our citizens. You know, and it's important to make sure that we are actually making a critical effort to ensure that we have a truly serious integrated areas throughout our society. And it's not going to happen unless all of us stand together to make it happen. And so I hope that we all, everyone here, will make a commitment to make those changes and also to talk to other folks, help work with them also that they can work with us to ensure that we've made the differences and made the type of things, the changes we need. You know, as I look at there are many things that are very subtle, I think, that's going on in our society now. As I look at the public schools, and we see the number of public schools that are closing. Now, this is wrong. There are a number of public schools that's closing. And so as you look at that, you say, well, that's not so bad. When you look further into it and see that as the number of charter schools that are increasing, and you see also the state, the governor and others there, are giving public funds to these private schools. So what does it mean? It means that perhaps the public schools are going to have difficulty. And when you look at the public schools, you think how critical they were in terms of integration. And so you say, well, you know, if they're not there, and that many of the private schools can decide on who's going to be admitted, you know, and public education is open to everyone. And the public schools have done a tremendous job over the years in ensuring that integration worked. And so I like that, and I say this, folks, because I want to make sure that it gets out very loud and very clear that each of us see our responsibility in ensuring that the public schools will survive. You know, it's not only here, but it's a national phenomenon also that we see the number of schools that are closed, the number of public schools. And so it doesn't mean that we have not made some progress. And when you make progress, you have to ensure that you keep stepping, keep moving ahead, and the progress will continue. Because when you stop, things have a tendency to start to go backwards. And so I hope that you will take the word out and look at it very critically in terms of our responsibility, all of our responsibility to ensure that our society works in a way that everyone, all our citizens, have the equal opportunities to be successful. And so what I'm going to do now, I'll probably come back in a few minutes, but I'd like to give the microphone to my good golf buddy now, Mr. Lander, and have him share with you his perspective. Chris?
Thank you. I still call him Councilman Chuck Ford, Dr. Chuck Ford. You know, it's funny seeing this presentation for the first time, and not much has changed since then, or at least not how I felt about what was happening in Tucson. I had the opportunity to speak to one of the Rotary clubs in Tucson a few years ago, and I was trying to get them to back the Dunbar project, and so my message to them was growing up black in Tucson, and this was I was born in Tucson in 1925, and so not only was something called segregation or discrimination, but we also had a thing called an economic downturn. This was when we had a very difficult time with people getting jobs and having a living. Therefore, when I look at what we just saw up there, the one thing that I'm still looking for is some way for people to get the right education or the right background so that they can be employed. You know, it's pretty tough. I've worked in community development and the Model Cities program and public housing and all of the federal programs, lunch programs and takeout dinner programs, all kind of programs. But if you're not working, if you're not drawing a salary every week, every 2 weeks, every month, you're not really participating in this great nation that we have here. And I can only say to you that I think one of our main emphasis should still be on employment. Many people are still pushed aside and not allowed to take, and America cannot afford to not use all of its resources. And we are as a people, we are a resource. And so people need to be employed and now let me tell you about growing up black in Tucson. There were things that you don't have to worry about if you live in Tucson. You didn't have to worry about staying in a hotel, so you didn't care that they were segregated. You didn't worry about going to dinner at the Pioneer Hotel because you didn't have any money to go to the hotel anyway. So what did we do in 1930, 1932, 1933? Well, number one, my brother and my brother was 2 years older than me. He was 8 years old. I was 6 years old. We sold in Tucson all of the black papers from around the United States. The Kansas City Call, the Black Dispatch, the one from Chicago, Chicago Defender. We sold roughly about 300 newspapers a week. And we had a stamp that we put on each of these papers. We call it the Lander Brothers News Agency. And so we were so successful that on the weekend we sold papers from the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune, and the New York News. And so we couldn't carry these papers anymore because we had too many. So we had to hire people to work for us. And up at Consumers Market on Stone Avenue, we had a stand, and we would have somebody that would work for us and sell papers in that location while we covered the rest of the town. And guess what? As entrepreneurs, as young kids trying to make it, we were making more than some men were making working a full day, $1 a day in 1931, 1932. And we were making it. You know, In 1931, the license plates for all of the automobiles in Arizona were made out of copper, pure copper. So in January the 1st, when the new license plates were due, they had about from January the 1st until about February the 15th, the middle of February, to get a new license plate. You didn't keep the same license plates like you do now. And so since these deals were pure copper, we figured that somebody should be putting them together and selling them. So we used to get a string, a wire, and we would like put these license plates on it, and so we would come up to you and say, can we change your license plates and put your new, your new one on and take the old one off? And if they said yes, that's what we would do. If they said no, we would still do it, but only at night. So we're stringing these deals together. You get $3 for 100 pounds. Okay, and once again, I'm telling you, grown men were making $1 a day, and so this was very good. The next enterprise we had, a lot of people had ice boxes. They didn't have refrigerators or whatever the new electrical term is. They just had a plain old ice box, but they needed ice. So where was the ice? The ice was on the railroad, on the siding, where they would bring in the meat and the produce and everything from every place. And they had these big railroad cars that on each end they had a place for all of this ice. They had these big 300 pounds of ice. And when they would park it on the side, then they would like unload that car, and they didn't want you to mess with the ice until they finished loading the car. But by the time they finished unloading the car, the ice may be melted, so we kind of had a conflict. So we had a team. We had one man down in the hole putting the ice on the clamp, one man pulling it up, one man throwing it overboard and looking out for the bulls. Now, they didn't have police. On the railroad property, they had what was known as bulls, and the bulls didn't have pistols or any kind of this, but they had a big stick. And if these bulls could catch you, they would like hit you, beat you with these sticks. And our whole deal is that if we could get off of the railroad property on Toole Avenue, then we were safe. And so the police from the city of Tucson used to meet us on Toole Avenue, and we used to put the ice in the police car and take it home, and then we'd sell it up and down the street. So this is how I grew up in Tucson. There were a few people in business in Tucson. We indicated that there was one doctor, Dr. A.B. Thompson, and we had a couple service stations, and so they were, kind of mentors to me, because I said, hey, times are kind of tough, and they're in business, and they know what they're doing, and one was Mr. Washington, who was around in Tucson and had a deal at Main Avenue and 5th Street. He had the service station and automobile repair. And when the war started, because this man had been an entrepreneur in Tucson, he got the contract for down in Fort Huachuca, and he had one of the most successful transportation businesses in the state of Arizona. And so he was one of my mentors. I thought that was great. with all the deals going on, he could still make a living, he could still make things happen. And so I sort of like took a page from his book and said, hey, that's what I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. So that little stuff that I was doing as a youngster, you know, in addition to selling newspapers on the weekend and in the week, we also sold papers, what we call on Saturday night when they had the football games at the University of Arizona. They would finish the football games and then the people would go to the restaurants on Congress Street, and we used to sell papers to those patrons. But on the right next to the door, there was this machine that had this gum in it, and you had to put in a penny, and you pull the lever, and the gum would drop down. So we were trying to figure out a way to use the wire and make the gum drop down without putting our penny in. So we were working with the wire and the police came. They said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I can't get this wire to trip this deal so the gum will come out." He said, "Let me try it for a minute." I say that to say this, that I talked about the police taking us home with the ice and the police helping us get the gum out of the gum machine. It was a whole different attitude and a deal in Tucson in 1925, 1931, and so forth when I was there. They were, you sort of like knew all of the families, or you knew of the families. And so a lot of kids didn't get sent to reform school, they got sent home by the deal, and that was one of the deals where the police used to whip you up a little bit and take you home, and your dad whipped you again. But that was very worthwhile in Tucson in terms of growing up. Because of what happened to me in terms of growing up, when I got in the first grade and the second grade and the third grade, by the time I got to the third grade, I was a math whiz. We used to put all the stuff on the board and we'd have races, you do the deal all around the school board. I whipped everybody in the class and told the teacher, "I'm ready for you." But that was an attitude that served me well, because I never believed that there was anything that I couldn't do in this society. Whatever I wanted to do, I could do in this society. I had the opportunity to go in 1943 to the U.S. Marine Corps during World War II, and once again, it wasn't anything that I thought I couldn't do in that service. In the 3 years that I was in the Marine Corps, I went from a private to a gunnery sergeant. That's 3 up and 2 down. You only got 1 more left, and that's a sergeant major. So I was able to succeed because of my background that came out of Tucson. Now, where was my real background in Tucson? My real background was Dunbar School. Here was this segregated system in Tucson, Arizona, that had some teachers who were dedicated to the principle that they were going to make you the best that you could be. And they were revered in the community, and they were on duty in the community. And they had control of you, whether you were at the baseball game or whether you were at the market or whatever you were doing, not just in the classroom. And those teachers instilled in me a continuing deal that everything was possible. And so I still give, you had the one up there was Laura Noble's Banks. Not only did she go to Dunbar from the 1st through the 9th grade, and I like to tell people that wasn't because anybody was dumb. That was how long the school year was, 1st through the 9th grade. That was Dunbar, the only school in Tucson that black kids could go to. And every morning we used to have, I lived about 2 blocks from the school, so I used to walk to school. But we used to get there in time to watch the bus turn the corner off of Main Street and come to the school. We say, here comes the sardine can. It's been all over Tucson, passing 2 or 3 elementary schools, 2 or 3 junior high schools, and now they were coming to Dunbar and they were like packed into that bus. People talk about busing. I say, don't even talk to me about busing. We had too much busing in 1931. We bused every single black kid into one place. But the teachers were just absolutely magnificent. Absolutely. And they made us what we are today, I think. And so that's how I grew up in Tucson. After I came out of the Marine Corps, I had the opportunity to go to the University of Arizona, and then I needed a job, and the university had, you could either work in Tucson, or you could go to school in Tucson. You couldn't work and go to school. So I went to Los Angeles and I worked nights, and I went to school, and I graduated from Cal State to Los Angeles with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Came back to Tucson, opened a real estate office, an insurance office, and had a store that we call like a 7-Eleven, Circle K. It was the Lander liquor store out on South Park Avenue. And I made one mistake, and I never made it again. I borrowed money to get into that business, but it was one small part of that block. I should have bought the whole block. I should have bought the whole block. But that was my first lesson and my only lesson. I've never just bought one since then. We go big now. Okay. So I thought maybe it's a little different from Dr. Ford, but we're giving you just an idea of what he's doing and what I'm doing and what we've done in life. And now we've been working with a group called the Dunbar Coalition Incorporated. It's 4 neighborhood groups in the city of Tucson. It's the A Mountain Coalition. It's the Tucson Urban League, the Neighborhood Association, the John Springs Dunbar Neighborhood Association, and the alumni who attended the school. Those 4 groups make up the Dunbar Coalition. Dr. Ford and in the back, Morgan Maxwell is back there. Officers in that organization and have made it come to fruition in terms of 50,000 square feet of building that now we're about 2/3 complete, and we got about another 1/3 to go. So we're still asking for support from the community, and we appreciate all you wonderful folks coming out tonight. So why don't we open it up if you have any questions for me or for Dr. Ford, and we'll try to answer it if we can.
We talk about the influence of Morgan Maxwell Sr. at Dunbar.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was really tremendous because he was the leading educator and administrator here in Tucson. And we have the son back here. Morgan, stand up for a minute, please. And let's give them a good hand. And certainly, he was the foreperson in terms of education in the African American community for a number of years here in Tucson. And at that point, he was the only African American principal here in Tucson. And we're very grateful for the work that he did and what he has been able to, what he accomplished and what we're able to accomplish as a result of the work that he did. I'd like to also just take a moment to express our appreciation to Bob Diaz, who has done a tremendous job getting all the material together. He came over to the house a couple of weeks ago and asked me to have it in materials. So he needed a truck just about to take the stuff away that I gave to it. But Bob, thank you very much. And as Cress mentioned, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight. It's certainly on Dr. King's birthday and also on Bob Diaz's birthday also. So we're certainly appreciative for the work that he's doing here at the university and also in the community. Bob, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you everybody for hanging out with us tonight. I know it's cold outside, and you're probably wanting to head on home, but we have food, we have birthday cake, we have lots to drink, so why don't we party for a little while, okay? So help me celebrate my birthday, don't go, okay? I'll break out the champagne. No, just kidding. We didn't get a permit, so it's gonna be a clean night, all right?
We should sing for you.
No.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mom. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Let's go enjoy ourselves. Thanks for coming. And thank you, Mr. Lander and Mr. Ford. This is great. All right, check it out.
Several programs over the weekend with regard to Martin College, but it's not actually connected with what we're on tonight. But you don't have any. I have some pan left for these schools. I have some pan left for the group that I'm a part of. Yeah, actually these ones. Would you mind signing them?
Here.
I think this. I can pass that on to Bob.
That's his and mine.
Okay, great. That'd be great for them.
Thank you.
This one's for pan left.
Okay.
He just sent you there.
That's the same thing.
Can I ask you a crazy question?
Not exactly.
I was just talking today, there was a little expo and one of the exhibitors was the Girl Scouts. There was an expo of various businesses and the Girl Scouts were there. They're doing one of these programs that I've heard about, and I'm leading up to what you were talking about, where, girls are afraid if they're with boys doing science stuff, they sort of quiet down. And so what they found is one of the ways of getting the girls more involved is to have science classes
Creation of the Oreo
just for girls.
Yeah.
You've heard about some of that.
I've heard about that, yeah.
As you were talking about Dunbar School, where you had black teachers trying to say to black kids, you can be more than society wanted to let you be.
also created the Elliott Neighborhood Center on Speedway.
I was hearing there's a quality in there that doesn't seem to be there today. Is there?
Well,
you hear what I'm saying?
You know the problem there, don't you? What I'm really saying is that the integration of schools or the integration of the races
You golf on the Elliott
had not, in effect, benefited.
Last Thursday.
I mean,
So
there
have you
hasn't
heard
been
how
a
they're
collateral benefit.
closing that?
That's sort of
When I'm talking about what happened to Dunbar and how wonderful those teachers were, you're almost saying, hey, you need to be segregated. You're talking about being a segregationist.
But you never can tell.
Excuse me.
You never can tell what's going to happen. I just hope it don't close it because
That's one of the
That's one of
that's
the
one of
deals.
the interesting dilemmas.
It's an interesting dilemma. And you see, in addition to what happened on the good side, what happened on the bad
Check out
side
Panelists. We're not
was that if you look at what happened in Tucson, after the first batch of black leaders came through, and some of them were on the deal there, and some went to college. We got doctors, we got dentists, we got lawyers, we got, you had a period when you were not getting black leadership from the Tucson Unified School District. This was when they integrated, and they took this one little black kid and
You got a lot of good energy to share with us. And
where this teacher was really pissed off because he was in her class, and nobody in there liked him. So what kind of education did that kid get? I mean, not just education, but I have just really not seen the kind of development from that group. Let's say from
we're not going anywhere. We'll be here.
1952 to about 1965 or something. People in that deal, they were put into a very hostile environment.
Oh, nice, huh?
So it's tough.
So whereas at Spring then, or at not Spring, at Dunbar,
I'm gonna pass these on.
there really was then a really positive. Did that, what the teachers were doing there, did that really pervade the student body?
Absolutely. I mean, what Mrs. Taylor and what Mrs. Nelson told you, that was the law. I mean,
Now, but what happened? So kids were getting that solid attitude and solid education, but then they came into a world where they couldn't use that.
well, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Really?
I don't necessarily. I think the people from Dunbar, in the particular time, not after 1952, were very successful.
But they were mostly, you were saying, custodians, became men who were
Not necessarily those kids. I
Did those kids go somewhere else? Is that...
They went to college.
So they left Tucson because of
They left Tucson. They were in Tucson. They were leaders in Tucson. They were doing all kinds of stuff.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So
Okay.
You're really interesting to hear.
All right.
To hear
Thank you
your
for letting us put cameras in your face and
okay. Good
Would
to
you
see
mind signing this? It's for Pan Left. We're a not-for-profit, and we put documentary short films online so people who couldn't make it tonight can see what we recorded.
01
Today's the
15
15th.
13.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Time to get some cake.
All right.
Hot cocoa.
I'm doing more administration stuff. Yeah, I asked. I know. You're like, wait. Oh, okay.